Picture this. It is late at night. Your kitchen is quiet. There is a receipt on the counter, a cup going cold beside it, and your phone lights up with that little flash of judgment that makes your stomach tighten before you even read it. You open the alert, and there it is. Your credit score just dropped. Not because you missed a payment, not because you got sued, not because someone stole your identity. You paid on time. You paid in full. You paid exactly the way every responsible adult is told to pay. And still, the number fell as if the system looked straight at your discipline and decided it did not count. Most people hear a story like that and reach for the easy explanation. You must have done something wrong. You must have spent too much. You must have been careless. That is the socially comfortable answer. It lets everyone pretend the system is fair and transparent, and that if you follow the rules, the machine will reward you. But that is not what is happening. What is happening is colder than that, and stranger than that. You are not being judged by your intentions. You are not even being judged by your actual payment behavior in real time. You are being judged by a snapshot, a frozen image taken on a date most people barely understand. And if that image catches you at the wrong moment, the algorithm can make you look riskier than you really are. Today, I want to show you the hidden calendar behind your credit score. I want to show you why paying in full is not always the same as looking safe, why moving a payment by just 48 hours can change the story the system tells about you, and why so many careful people keep feeling punished by a game they thought they were playing correctly. If you like videos that tear the wallpaper off the financial system and show you the wiring underneath, subscribe, leave a like, and let us get into it. The first illusion is the most dangerous one. The due date feels like the truth. From the time you are young, you get trained to think there is one sacred date in debt: the due date. That is the day that carries fear. That is the day that carries morality. Pay by then and you are responsible. Miss it and you are reckless. Emotionally, that makes sense. The due date is where pain lives. That is where interest shows up. That is where late fees show up. That is where shame shows up. So your brain does what the brain always does. It locks onto the date that feels emotionally important and assumes that must also be the date the system uses to define you. But the system is not emotional. The system is administrative. And administrative systems do not care which date feels important to you. They care which date fits their reporting pipeline. That means the day that hurts your wallet is not always the day that shapes your reputation. That is where the disconnect begins. You can do everything the human part of the financial world asked you to do. You can avoid interest. You can avoid late fees. You can clear the full balance. You can act with discipline. And still, if the wrong balance got captured on the wrong day, your report can tell a completely different story. That is the first betrayal. Not a betrayal of money, but a betrayal of meaning. You think you are being measured by responsibility. In reality, you are often being measured by timing. And timing without context can make a disciplined person look desperate. The system does not ask who you are. It asks where your balance was when the camera clicked. That brings us to the second mechanism. The score is not a live feed. It is a photograph. This is where people get psychologically trapped because your daily financial life feels immediate. You check your checking account. You see the payment leave. You watch the balance fall. You feel relief. In your mind, the story is over. The debt appeared, then you handled it. Case closed. But that is not how credit reporting works. The score does not watch you moment by moment like a real-time documentary. It sees your financial life the way an old filing cabinet sees it, in intervals, in snapshots, in delayed updates. Imagine your billing cycle runs from the 1st of the month to the 30th. Throughout that month, you spend groceries, gas, a big purchase, maybe a plane ticket, maybe furniture, maybe something boring and ordinary that just happened to be expensive. The balance rises. Then the cycle closes. A statement is generated. That statement closing date is the moment that matters far more than most people realize. Because for many card issuers, the balance that exists when that statement closes is the balance that gets reported to the credit bureaus. Not the balance after you breathe out and pay it a few days later. Not the balance after your paycheck lands. Not the balance after you finally clean up the mess. The balance at the moment the statement cuts. That is the photograph. And this is why the experience feels so maddening. Your real financial life and your reported financial life can be living in two different time zones. You can pay in full on the 20th and still have the bureaus see the much higher balance that existed back on the 30th. You feel current. Your score feels delayed. You feel clean. Your report still reflects the clutter. That gap creates anxiety because it makes a rational person feel gaslit by a number. You start asking questions that sound dramatic but are emotionally honest. Is the system rigged? Is something broken? Why am I being punished for doing the right thing? The answer is not that the machine is targeting you personally. The answer is in some ways more unsettling. The machine is not thinking about you at all. It is simply processing old information with total emotional indifference. You are living in motion. The algorithm is judging still images. And if you do not control the still image, you are letting your worst moment of the month become your official portrait. Now we get to the third mechanism, and this is where the score can move with brutal speed. Thresholds. Human beings love continuous stories. We want to believe that if something gets a little worse, the result gets a little worse. A gradual cause, a gradual effect. But scoring systems often do not behave that way. They behave in tiers, in thresholds, in invisible cliffs. Your credit utilization is simply your reported balance divided by your available credit. That sounds harmless, almost mechanical. But the emotional impact of that ratio is huge because the system treats that percentage as a signal of stress. If you owe $500 on a $1,000 limit, you are using half your limit. If you owe $2,000 on $5,000, you are using a large chunk. And here is what makes it dangerous. The scoring system often reacts much more sharply once you cross certain zones. Above roughly 30%, the picture starts to darken. Around 50%, the picture gets uglier. Near the top of the limit, the machine begins to read your behavior like a warning flare. You might say, "But I am going to pay it." You might even say, "I already paid it." The system does not care about that thought in the moment the snapshot is taken. It only sees the ratio. High usage can look like strain even when it is temporary, even when it is intentional, even when you have cash sitting safely in the bank. And the cruelty is that this can happen on both levels at once. The system looks at your total utilization across all cards, and it can also react to an individual card that is heavily loaded. So even if your overall picture looks decent, one card pushed too high can still drag the mood of the report downward. This is why people feel blindsided after a vacation, a family emergency, a move, a home purchase, or one unusually expensive month. Nothing collapsed. Nothing catastrophic happened. They simply crossed a threshold on the wrong date, and suddenly, the score moved as if their whole financial identity changed. That is what makes utilization so psychologically brutal. It can create the feeling of moral failure out of a temporary arithmetic event. But the system is not detecting your character. It is reacting to exposure. And exposure, in this world, is measured in percentages, not intentions. A score can panic before your life does. The fourth mechanism is even stranger, because this is where common sense starts to break. Zero is not always the strongest signal. Most people hear everything I just said and land on the simplest conclusion. Fine. Then I should make sure every card reports zero. No balance, no problem. Nothing owed must be the cleanest possible picture. It sounds perfect. It is not always perfect. Because the scoring system is not only trying to decide whether you owe too much, it is also trying to see whether you use credit in a stable, controlled way. If every card reports zero all the time, month after month, the picture can become oddly empty. You start to look less like a disciplined user of credit and more like someone who is barely demonstrating any credit behavior at all. That does not mean zero is bad. It means that for optimization, zero everywhere is not always the absolute peak. The strongest signal is often small, controlled activity. This is why people who chase top-tier scores often use a simple strategy: all zero except one. Most cards report zero. One card reports a tiny balance, not a stressful balance, not a reckless balance, just enough to show life, just enough to show that credit exists in your hands and that you handle it gently. A tiny balance can say something important to the algorithm. This person is active but calm. This person uses the system but does not lean on it. This person is not absent. This person is controlled. And now we have to clear up one of the biggest confusions in all of personal finance. Reporting a balance is not the same as carrying a balance. Those two ideas get tangled in people's minds, and the tangle costs them both money and peace. If a small amount reports on your statement, that does not automatically mean you will pay interest. Interest comes from failing to pay the statement balance by the due date. So if your statement closes with a tiny amount and you pay that amount by the due date, you can still pay zero interest. That is the hidden elegance here. You can let the system see a whisper of activity and still give the bank no extra money. The sweet spot is not debt. The sweet spot is controlled visibility. The machine does not reward purity. It rewards measured proof. Now we move from theory into behavior, because this is where almost everyone loses control without realizing it. Autopilot protects you from disaster. It does not optimize your image. Autopay is wonderful for one thing. It prevents forgetfulness from becoming expensive. It protects you from late payments, late fees, and the kind of damage that can haunt you for years. For basic safety, it is excellent. But safety and optimization are not the same thing. If your automatic payment is set to pay the statement balance on the due date, then it is built to solve the wrong problem for this specific goal. It will help you avoid being late, but it will not usually help you manage what gets reported on the statement closing date. By the time the automatic payment arrives, the photograph has already been taken. That means if you want to control utilization, you need to stop behaving like a passenger and start behaving like an editor. First, find the statement closing date for each card. Not the due date, the statement closing date. That is the real stage light. Sometimes it is hidden in the statements section, buried in the fine print of old bills, because the system is very happy to remind you when to pay and much less eager to teach you when it reports. Once you know that closing date, set a reminder a few days earlier. Give yourself a buffer. Transfers can take time. Payments can post slowly. Do not trust the last minute. Then check the current balance. If it is high and you want the reported number low, make a manual payment before the statement closes. Not after, before. Bring the balance down to where you want it to appear on the statement. Then let the statement cut. Then pay the remaining amount by the due date. That is the whole move. Simple in mechanics, powerful in effect. You are not changing your spending history. You are changing the angle of the snapshot. And sometimes that is enough to change the score far faster than people think possible, because utilization in older mainstream models is one of the most temporary parts of the score. It is not like a missed payment that lingers like smoke in the walls. When a new lower balance gets reported, the older high balance often loses its grip quickly. That is why this feels almost magical to people the first time they do it. They think they damaged something deep. In reality, they often just had bad timing. You do not always have a character problem. Sometimes you have a calendar problem. But every powerful lever has a shadow. The next mechanism is where discipline can turn into suspicion. Credit cycling. This is what happens when someone with a low limit keeps spending up to the limit, paying it down mid-cycle, then spending up to the limit again, over and over within the same billing period. On paper, that can look clever. You might think you are proving how responsible you are. Look at me. I pay constantly. I keep the account moving. I am efficient. To a risk department, it can look very different. It can look like you are trying to stretch a small line of credit into a much larger one than the bank intended to give you. It can look erratic. It can look aggressive. In some cases, it can trigger reviews, freezes, or closures, especially if the pattern is extreme. This is an important emotional lesson because people who do this are often not reckless at all. They are trying to survive within a limit that is too tight for their actual spending life. They are improvising. They are squeezing space out of a system that did not give them enough. But banks do not always interpret improvisation kindly. If you constantly have to pay down a card early just to keep using it, the deeper issue may not be timing. The deeper issue may be that your limit no longer matches your reality. Sometimes the answer is not another trick. Sometimes the answer is asking for a higher limit. A wider denominator makes the entire utilization game easier. The same spending looks less stressful when the available credit is larger. A $2,000 month feels very different against a $20,000 limit than it does against a $1,000 limit. Scale changes the emotional meaning of the same behavior. The next trap is quieter, and because it feels tidy, people walk into it willingly. Closing old cards. It sounds mature. Simplify your life. Remove clutter. Get rid of accounts you do not use. That feels adult. It feels clean. It feels like good housekeeping. But credit scores do not always reward the version of cleanliness that makes intuitive sense. When you close an old card with a decent limit, especially one carrying no balance, you can shrink your total available credit. Your debt may stay the same while the denominator gets smaller. And the moment the denominator shrinks, utilization can jump, even though your spending did not change at all. That means a person can feel financially cleaner while suddenly looking more leveraged to the system. Keep that in mind before you shut old accounts down just because they look inactive. Sometimes an old unused card is not dead weight. Sometimes it is quiet structural support. It is the unseen beam holding part of the score up. And now we need to talk about the future, because the system is evolving, even if slowly. For now, many major lending decisions still lean heavily on older score models that behave like snapshot machines. They care a lot about what the current reported balance looks like. That is why statement timing can matter so much. But newer models are becoming more interested in trends, not just where you stand today, but how you have been moving over time. If you repeatedly run balances high and only slash them at the last second before reporting, newer systems may become better at recognizing that pattern. They may start asking a more sophisticated question. Is this person truly low risk or just cosmetically polished at the reporting moment? That does not make timing irrelevant. It just means timing alone may not remain enough forever. The future of scoring may become less about one photograph and more about a sequence of photographs that reveals your habits across months. In other words, the machine may eventually care not just about your pose, but about your rhythm. And that matters because the healthiest takeaway from this video is not that you should obsessively manipulate every card every month until your brain turns into a spreadsheet. That is not freedom. That is just a different kind of captivity. The real lesson is more balanced than that. Learn the rules. Use them when it matters, especially before a mortgage application, a car loan, or any moment when a few extra points can change real outcomes. In those seasons, become precise. Know the statement dates. Bring balances down early. Keep utilization low. Let one small balance report if you are trying to optimize. Then clear it by the due date. But outside those seasons, do not let the score colonize your nervous system. The goal is not to worship the number. The goal is to understand the language the number speaks, because that is what so many people have been missing. They thought the system was reading morality. It is often reading mechanics. They thought the score was a verdict on whether they were good with money. Often it is a delayed reaction to how a balance happened to appear on one administrative date. That does not mean the system is harmless. It just means the insult is different from what you thought. You are not always being punished for irresponsibility. Sometimes you are being misread by a machine that only sees fragments. And that is why this topic lands so deep emotionally. It is not really about one score drop. It is about the experience of doing the responsible thing and still feeling accused. It is about how quickly a number can make you doubt yourself. It is about how many adults walk around assuming they are worse with money than they really are, because no one ever explained the invisible calendar behind the judgment. So here is the shift I want to leave you with. Stop seeing your credit score as a moral reflection of your worth. Start seeing it as a technical system with rules, blind spots, and timing windows. When you understand the reporting date, the utilization thresholds, the difference between carrying debt and reporting activity, the limits of autopay, the danger of cycling, and the hidden cost of closing old accounts, the fog begins to lift. You stop taking every movement personally. You stop mistaking bureaucracy for truth. You stop confusing the machine's snapshot with your actual life. And maybe most importantly, you stop feeling broken just because the system described you badly for 1 month. You are not weak because a number moved. You are not irresponsible because an algorithm saw the wrong frame. You are not failing at money just because the machine captured your mess before it captured your cleanup. Learn the timing. Control the snapshot. Use the system without letting it define you. Because in the end, the most dangerous thing about a credit score is not the number itself. It is the lie that the number always knows who you are.